Soulmate breaking news, they finally realized what they lost. Now they're planning their return. My beloved child, stop for a moment and listen carefully, because something has shifted behind the scenes that you may not know about yet. The person who once walked away is beginning to understand exactly what they lost, and what happens next may surprise you. There are moments in life when someone does not realize the value of a person until the silence becomes louder than every conversation they once had. They thought they could move forward without looking back. They thought distance would make the memories disappear. They thought time would make your presence less important. But something happened inside them. Something they could not easily explain. And now they are looking at the past with different eyes. My beloved child, this message is not asking you to chase anyone, beg anyone, or put your life on hold. This is about understanding the emotional shift that can happen when someone finally recognizes the value of what they once had. There was a time when they may have taken your kindness for granted. They may have become comfortable with your presence. They may have assumed that you would always be there, always answer, always forgive, always understand, always make the first move. But life has a way of teaching lessons that words cannot teach. Sometimes the greatest lesson is absence. Sometimes silence reveals what noise was hiding. And sometimes losing access to someone is the moment a person finally realizes how deeply that person mattered. My beloved child, before you continue listening, remember this one thing: you are not required to force a reunion. You are not required to convince anyone of your worth. Your worth existed before they recognized it. Your value did not increase because they missed you, and your value did not decrease because they walked away. You were valuable all along. But now, something inside this person appears to be changing. They are beginning to remember the details. Not just your face. Not just your voice. Not just the moments you shared. They are remembering how you made them feel. They remember the peace they felt when they could speak to you without pretending. They remember the way you noticed things other people ignored. They remember the conversations that seemed ordinary at the time but now feel strangely precious. They remember your patience. They remember your concern. They remember the little things. And perhaps most importantly, they are beginning to understand that what they had with you was not as replaceable as they once believed. My beloved child, there is a difference between missing someone and understanding someone. At first, they may have simply missed you. They missed the messages. They missed the attention. They missed having someone who cared. But now the realization may be going deeper. They are asking themselves difficult questions. Why did I let this person go? Why did I push them away? Why did I ignore what they were giving me? Why did I assume they would always remain available? Why did I allow pride, fear, confusion, or outside influence to interfere? These questions can become uncomfortable. They can appear when the world becomes quiet. They can appear late at night when distractions disappear. They can appear when they meet new people and discover that not everyone understands them in the same way. They can appear when something reminds them of you unexpectedly. A song. A place. A phrase. A familiar date. A photograph. A scent. A conversation. Something small can unlock an entire chapter of memory. And suddenly they are not simply remembering you. They are remembering who they were when they were with you. My beloved child, that can be powerful. Because sometimes a person does not only miss another person. They miss the version of themselves that existed around that person. They miss feeling understood. They miss feeling safe. They miss having someone who could see through their defenses. They miss the feeling that someone genuinely cared about what happened to them. And when they compare that feeling with what they have experienced since the separation, the difference may become impossible to ignore. But listen carefully, my beloved child. Do not turn this message into an excuse to wait endlessly. Do not spend every hour checking your phone. Do not analyze every social media post. Do not interpret every coincidence as proof that someone is coming back. Your peace is more important than speculation. If someone truly wants to return, their actions will eventually become clearer than their silence. Your responsibility is not to chase the possibility. Your responsibility is to continue becoming the strongest, healthiest, most peaceful version of yourself. Because something has changed in you too. You are no longer the same person who was waiting for their attention. You have learned through pain. You have grown through uncertainty. You have discovered that you can survive the silence you once thought would destroy you. And that transformation is important. Because if they return, they should not find the old version of you standing at the same door, waiting for permission to be loved. They should meet someone who has grown. Someone who understands boundaries. Someone who knows what they deserve. Someone who can love deeply without abandoning themselves. My beloved child, there is a reason this message begins with the realization of what they lost. Because realization often comes before movement. A person may spend a long time thinking before they act. They may watch from a distance. They may wonder whether you still care. They may fear rejection. They may feel embarrassed about the past. They may not know how to begin a conversation after so much silence. They may rehearse what they want to say and then decide not to send it. They may type a message, stare at it, delete it, rewrite it, and put the phone down. They may wonder, what if they have moved on? What if they hate me? What if I no longer matter? And here is the irony, my beloved child. The person who once made you question whether you mattered may now be questioning whether they still matter to you. Life can reverse the roles in unexpected ways. The one who once felt secure may become uncertain. The one who once assumed you would always be there may suddenly realize that you could genuinely walk away. The one who once believed they had endless time may finally understand that time does not wait for anyone. This does not mean you should celebrate their discomfort. It means you should recognize the lesson. Love cannot survive on assumption. Connection cannot survive when one person continually gives while the other continually receives. Relationships require presence. They require communication. They require honesty. They require courage. And sometimes people only understand this after losing something meaningful. My beloved child, perhaps they thought your patience meant weakness. Perhaps they confused your forgiveness with unlimited tolerance. Perhaps they believed your silence meant you did not care. But silence can mean many things. Sometimes silence means someone is exhausted. Sometimes it means someone has finally understood that repeated explanations are not creating change. Sometimes silence is not punishment. It is protection. And if you have entered a season of silence, perhaps this is the moment to use that silence wisely. Do not use it to manipulate. Use it to heal. Use it to think. Use it to rebuild. Use it to rediscover the parts of yourself that became buried beneath the relationship. Because while they are remembering you, you must remember yourself. Remember your dreams. Remember your goals. Remember your laughter. Remember the person you were before disappointment taught you to doubt your worth. My beloved child, you may have spent so much time asking what they are thinking that you forgot to ask what you are feeling. You may have spent so much time wondering whether they will return that you forgot to ask whether you would even accept the same version of them back. That question matters. If they return with the same behavior, the same avoidance, the same confusion, the same inconsistency, then what exactly are you returning to? A reunion is not automatically a restoration. A return is not automatically a transformation. Someone coming back does not automatically mean the relationship should resume exactly where it ended. If they truly recognize what they lost, then recognition should produce responsibility. It should produce different behavior. It should produce honest communication. It should produce accountability. My beloved child, do not be impressed by words alone. Listen to words, but watch actions. Someone can say, "I miss you," and still be unwilling to change. Someone can say, "I regret everything," and still repeat the same mistakes. Someone can say, "You are the one," while continuing to treat you as an option. Your heart deserves more than emotional speeches. It deserves consistency. It deserves respect. It deserves clarity. It deserves a relationship where you do not constantly wonder where you stand. And perhaps this is one of the greatest lessons this entire journey has been teaching you. You should never have to shrink yourself to make someone comfortable. You should never have to become less expressive, less loving, less ambitious, or less authentic just to keep another person from leaving. The right connection should not require you to disappear. My beloved child, maybe they are beginning to understand that now. Maybe they are comparing the person you were with the people they have met since. Maybe they are discovering that chemistry is not the same as connection. Attraction is not the same as emotional safety. Attention is not the same as genuine care. And being surrounded by people is not the same as being understood by one person. They may have experienced moments where they laughed with someone else but still felt empty afterward. They may have gone somewhere you once wanted to visit and suddenly remembered how excited you would have been. They may have heard a song and remembered the way you used to react to it. They may have encountered a situation where they wished they could tell you what happened. These little moments can accumulate. And eventually, a person may stop running from the memory and start facing it. That is where realization begins. My beloved child, maybe they have also started looking at their own mistakes differently. In the past, they may have blamed circumstances. They may have blamed timing. They may have blamed you. They may have blamed themselves. But now they may be seeing the situation with more maturity. They may recognize where they were emotionally unavailable. They may recognize where fear controlled them. They may recognize where pride prevented an honest conversation. They may recognize where they listened to other people instead of listening to their own heart. They may recognize that they pushed away someone who was offering something genuine because genuine love felt unfamiliar or frightening. And that realization can hurt. It can create regret. But regret, my beloved child, is not always a sign that someone is ready to return. Sometimes regret is simply the beginning of personal growth. So allow the process to unfold without forcing it. Let them face their own lessons. Let them confront their own choices. Let them understand their own behavior. You do not need to teach them every lesson yourself. Some lessons must be learned privately. Some realizations only become real when a person reaches them without being pushed. My beloved child, there is another possibility you should consider. They may be afraid that you have already moved on. Perhaps your silence has made them wonder. Perhaps they see you becoming stronger. Perhaps they hear through mutual connections that you are doing better. Perhaps they notice that you are no longer trying to get their attention. And this can create a strange feeling inside someone who once assumed you would always be available. They may think, did I lose my chance? They may wonder whether the door is closed forever. They may wonder whether you still remember them. They may wonder whether you would answer if they reached out. But again, you do not have to solve those questions for them. If they need an answer, they can eventually ask. Courage belongs to both people. My beloved child, perhaps the most important thing you can do right now is stop trying to predict the exact moment they will return. There is freedom in releasing the timeline. If you obsess over when, you will miss what is happening now. Your life is happening now. Your healing is happening now. Your growth is happening now. Your opportunities are happening now. Your future is happening now. Do not postpone your happiness for a possibility. If someone returns and their actions align with your values, you can decide then. But today, choose yourself. Choose peace. Choose progress. Choose your own life. My beloved child, sometimes the greatest shift happens when you stop trying to make someone realize your value. Because the moment you stop proving yourself, you create space for the other person to see clearly. You are no longer explaining why you deserve respect. You are simply living in a way that reflects your self-respect. You are no longer begging for communication. You are communicating with yourself through your choices. You are no longer asking someone to choose you. You are choosing yourself. And that can change the entire emotional dynamic. If they return, they will have to meet you where you are. Not where you were. They will have to approach the person you have become. My beloved child, think about how much has changed since the separation. There may have been days when you could barely get through your routine without thinking about them. There may have been nights when your mind replayed conversations. You may have wondered what you did wrong. You may have searched for answers in every small detail. You may have blamed yourself for things that were never entirely your responsibility. You may have questioned whether you were enough. But look at you now. You are still here. You are still moving. You are still learning. You are still breathing. You are still capable of love. And that means the story did not end where the pain began. There is still more life ahead of you. There are still chapters you have not read. There are still experiences waiting for you. There are still people you have not met. There are still versions of yourself you have not discovered. My beloved child, your future is bigger than one relationship. Never forget that. A soulmate connection, if you believe in that concept, should enrich your life, not consume it. It should encourage you to become more yourself, not less. It should create space for mutual growth. It should not require endless confusion. So if this person is truly planning a return, let their return be meaningful. Let them demonstrate that they have learned. Let them communicate honestly. Let them show consistency. Let them respect your boundaries. Let them acknowledge the past without using it as a weapon. Let them explain what changed. Let them tell you what they want. And then, my beloved child, you get to decide. You are not obligated to accept. You are not obligated to reject. You are allowed to take your time. You are allowed to ask questions. You are allowed to say, I need to see change. You are allowed to protect your peace. My beloved child, perhaps this message reached you at a moment when your heart needed reassurance. Perhaps you have been wondering whether the connection meant anything to them. Perhaps you felt forgotten. Perhaps you believed they moved on easily while you were left carrying the emotional weight. But people often hide what they feel. A person can appear fine and still have unanswered questions. They can smile publicly while privately wrestling with memories. They can move forward with their daily life while still carrying an unresolved emotional chapter. You cannot know everything happening inside another person. That is why your peace cannot depend on knowing. Let uncertainty exist without allowing it to control you. My beloved child, if they truly realize what they lost, one thing will become increasingly clear to them: you were not simply another person in their life. You were someone who brought a particular energy, a particular kind of care, a particular kind of emotional connection. They may realize that the relationship had flaws, but the connection itself was meaningful. They may recognize that perfection was never the point. The point was authenticity. The point was that something about your presence reached them. Something about your conversation stayed with them. Something about your energy remained in their memory. And perhaps they tried to replace that feeling. Perhaps they tried distraction. Perhaps they tried pretending. Perhaps they tried moving quickly into another chapter. But emotional truth has a way of resurfacing. You can distract the mind for a while. You cannot permanently silence the heart. Eventually, unanswered feelings demand attention. My beloved child, imagine the moment they finally admit to themselves, I made a mistake. That sentence can be difficult for a proud person. It requires humility. It requires honesty. It requires accepting that their choices had consequences. It requires admitting that the person they thought would always be available is now living independently. It requires accepting that time has moved forward. And perhaps that is why they are hesitant. They may want to approach you, but they do not know how. They may fear that you have changed too much. They may fear that you will reject them. They may fear that you will ask questions they are not ready to answer. They may fear having to face the pain they caused. But if they truly want another chance, they will eventually need to face those fears. My beloved child, do not rescue them from the discomfort of accountability. If they need to apologize, let them apologize. If they need to explain, let them explain. If they need to rebuild trust, let them rebuild it. You do not have to carry their side of the bridge. A healthy reunion requires two people walking toward each other. One person cannot carry the entire relationship. And you have already carried enough. Perhaps you carried conversations. Perhaps you carried hope. Perhaps you carried emotional responsibility. Perhaps you carried the fear that everything would fall apart if you stopped trying. Now it is time for balance. My beloved child, the strongest love is not the love that desperately holds on. It is the love that can remain compassionate while still maintaining boundaries. You can care about someone and still refuse to accept poor treatment. You can forgive someone and still choose distance. You can miss someone and still recognize that the old relationship was unhealthy. You can believe someone may change and still wait for evidence. This is emotional maturity. And perhaps your journey has been preparing you for exactly that. You are learning to separate love from attachment. You are learning to separate hope from obsession. You are learning to separate forgiveness from permission. You are learning that being loving does not mean being endlessly available. My beloved child, if this person is truly returning, they will need to understand the new version of you. You may not respond as quickly as before. You may not accept vague explanations. You may not overlook inconsistencies. You may ask direct questions. You may require clarity. And that is not being difficult. That is knowing yourself. The person who benefits from your lack of boundaries may complain when you finally establish them. But